After surviving a car accident, Michelle wakes up to find herself in an underground bunker with two men. Howard tells her that a massive chemical attack has rendered the air unbreathable and their only hope of survival is to remain inside. Despite the comforts of home, Howard's controlling and menacing nature makes Michelle want to escape. After taking matters into her own hands, the young woman finally discovers the truth about the outside world. Welcome to another feature presentation of Midnight Double Feature, and on this episode we'll be covering 2016's 10 Cloverfield Lane, directed by Dan Trachtenberg.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another feature presentation episode of Midnight Double Feature. As you just heard, we're going to be covering 10 Cloverfield Lane on this episode. Really keen to cover that with my main man, Colin. Colin, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, buddy? I'm doing well. How you doing?
I am good. We this episode will be dropping in the new year. How about that? in the
year 2000.
Yep, indeed. Guys, as you've just heard, 10 Cloverfield Lane, that's what we're covering. We are Midnight Double Feature. You can find us on Facebook. Please follow us on Facebook. We have our main page, which is Midnight Double Feature, and then we have our social group on Facebook, which is called The After Party. That's where our community comes together and posts memes, news, and we post teasers of what's to come here on Midnight Double Feature. We also have our Instagram. If you're so Instagram inclined, it's at Midnight Double Feature, and Twitter, which is at MDF Pod. If you're one of those tweeters who likes to get in on, political shit and, follow tweets and shit, I don't know. I'm not much of a tweeter. So
yeah, if you're Mark Hamill or Stephen King, just jump right on that shit.
Right, exactly. I think it's more for that older generation because, we're young. Well, we want to be young.
Right.
But yeah, and if you guys have any questions or concerns, you can feel free to email us here at Midnight Double Feature, which is midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. And please remember to rate and review us on iTunes. That would be fantastic. And please share the show, whether that's via Twitter, on Instagram, or Facebook. Just share our show, get our word out there. If you're at an event or something, just be like, hey, I've been listening to a new film podcast. And, the other person will be like, oh, what's it called? And you can just be like, hey, been a double feature. But hey, don't forget to tell them that it's E for explicit because some people are snowflakes. And yeah, I don't want to like mislead someone into thinking we're a G-rated podcast because we are not.
I would just love to see some guy riding on the fucking subway car and be like, hey, have you ever listened to Midnight Double Feature? And the guy's like, well, who are you? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like some random person?
That's a challenge I'm putting out. So to our listeners, put out like film yourself telling a random person on the subway about Midnight Double Feature and then post it in the after party. Please, I will fucking lose my mind. Just don't let it end up like the scene in Joker because that's next level. But anyway, guys, that's the formalities done. That's the self-plugging, all the let's hug ourselves and suck our own dicks. That's all done. Let's talk 10 Cloverfield Lane. Colin, you start. You're new to this movie. Tell me about what you know about the Cloverfield franchise. Have you seen the other two?
Okay, so the Paradox one I have not. I actually really wanted to check it out. I've heard it's not that great, but I'll let my own opinion be formed of that because I loved Daniel Bruhl, and I was like, it's got some really good actors in it. It seems something that like I would really enjoy, so I've been meaning to check it out but never have. I went and saw the original Cloverfield in theaters like 10, 11 years ago.
Me too.
And I remember seeing it. Okay, awesome. And I was like almost in the front row, and it was very nauseating.
Oh, boy.
This was, it definitely wasn't the first found footage kind of movie, but it was, we had Blair Witch, and then maybe there were a couple imitators after that, and then you had Cloverfield, and then you had Paranormal Activity, and then you had all these other, now it's a genre unto its own. So I remember watching the first one and just being completely blown away by it and thinking, wow, this is so fucking cool. It's just very different. Whereas with Godzilla, we have, or King Kong, or what have you, we have these main characters. They have, while we have the battle of the monster going on, they have their own subplot and they're trying to destroy it or help the monster or whatever. But in these kind of movies, it's just like, you're so kept in the dark of what it is and what's going on, where it came from, how to defeat it. It's all very mysterious, and it seems very realistic in that kind of way of like, we're just trying to survive. And that's what I really like. In the wake of this thing, it's not, oh, everyone's a scientist and they're trying to, blow this thing up. No, everyone's just trying to get the fuck out of this way. It's like ants to a boot. So this was the first time that I had actually seen this, and I actually bought it on Blu-ray. I can't remember where from. Might have been like Best Buy. But I bought it on Blu-ray, and I had it, and I still haven't taken it out of the plastic yet. And I was like, oh, fucking whatever. So I popped it in, and I really enjoyed this one. I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I've seen the first Cloverfield. Like I said, I haven't seen Cloverfield Paradox, so it's hard for me to compare this one to the original one. And I mean, I wouldn't even really. A lot of people were like, "Oh, it's the sequel in the Cloverfield franchise." I'm like, this is, I mean, in spirit only. Like, this does not feel like, the sequel to the first Cloverfield at all.
So,
this is not like...
While you're talking about it, do you mind if I read a quote from J.J. Abrams? Because you've kind of like pretty much hit the nail on the head on exactly what he said.
Yeah.
So he calls it a blood relative or a spiritual successor. He said, the spirit of it, this is a quote by the way, the spirit of it, the genre of it, the heart of it, the fear factor, the comedy factor, the weirdness factor, there were so many elements that it felt like the DNA of this story were of the same place that Cloverfield was born out of. Those characters and that monster from Cloverfield are not in this movie, but there are characters and other monsters. And this movie is very purposely not called Cloverfield 2 because it's not Cloverfield 2. So if you're approaching it as a literal sequel, you'd be surprised to see what this movie is. But while it's not what you might expect from this movie that has the name Cloverfield in it, I think you'll find that you'll understand the connection when you see the whole thing. That's what he said. So yeah, I think you definitely like nailed it there in terms of like it not being a sequel.
Right. Yeah. And I agree with most of that. The only thing I have any kind of quarrel with, and this is a great movie, by the way, I really enjoyed it. The only thing I have any kind of quarrel with is it feels the alien shit almost seems kind of like tacked on last minute. You know what I mean? Like,
yep, 100%.
It feels like this could be, I don't know. We know I'd really would have loved if she went to the surface and the air was toxic and it was like, hey, this is a Fallout movie. This is like about the game's Fallout. The Fallout. This is a movie, a prequel to the U.S. and China sending nukes at each other. Like, hey, that's fucking cool. I would have really enjoyed that. I know that, like, I know what he says in terms of humor and spirit and dialogue and stuff. It has similarities, but I think really the only 100% similarity that I feel is in namesake only. And you can change your aliens up a little bit, but they're basically the same kind of aliens that what's going on. And I get it in terms of for Michelle's character arc at the end, her deciding to go into that instead of just running away from it. And that's cool and that's fine and all. But I mean, this could have been so many different things. This could have been a zombie movie. This could have been, Fallout. This could have been, a Terminator prequel. There's a lot of different shit that can happen where I think that a huge difference between those two movies is the first Cloverfield is about these people directly dealing with the monster and running through the city and stuff like that. And it really shows you when the shit hits the fan, these people right in the middle of it. Whereas this is the opposite point of this, where it's three people. It takes place in one set entirely. It's so fucking far away from any city but it shows you in times like these that when that kind of presence arrives, that it turns sometimes the people around you into monsters. That it's not just it's what I love about zombie apocalypse fiction is that when the zombies come out, it's the people like Negan you need to be afraid of. It's not the zombies. The zombies are simple. It's like, but it's when it's human beings that have a little bit more motive and are willing to do dastardly things to do that or to accomplish that. It's those people you need to be afraid of, and that's what I really loved about it. But all in all, I mean, I really did enjoy this movie, except for the alien stuff. It's just kind of okay, whatever. I don't really need it. But I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead in this. I really like John Goodman. And
fuck yeah.
Yeah. Well, and who is the actor that plays Emmett? I haven't really seen him in much.
Yeah, honestly. John Gallagher Jr. is the actor's name. I hadn't seen him in much either.
Man, I fucking loved him. He was great. He was probably my favorite part of this movie in terms of just, we needed a humor break. We needed an everyman. And there was something about him that I really enjoyed that made him, I don't know, he just seems so real. I feel like I know that guy. I feel like I've worked with that guy. And I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I'm not taking anything away from her, but there is something there's something about that hero character that I think is always kind of harder for people to connect with. Maybe that's just me. But I've just I've never had the kind of the struggle that she's had, but I with Emmett, I related to that a little bit more, and I was like, yeah, I get this guy, I like him. So I think it's really cool. I think you have these different shades of people all tied up here in this bunker. I need to check out the Cloverfield paradox. I've heard it's kind of meh, but I'll still check it out just because you watch 2 out of 3, why not? But I really enjoyed this one. I think it's highly underrated. Especially for a film that had like a $15 million budget, made like 110 back at the box office. You want to talk about fucking success? Like, good God. But yeah, I'm really glad I watched this. It's got like a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, if Rotten Tomatoes loves it that much, like Jesus. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic movie. I love the small scope of it and the scale and the, anything that takes place with a few actors in one area, I'm always down for, and I'm sure that was challenging to write, and I think they pulled it off really well.
Fuck yeah, dude. Every time I pick a movie and you haven't seen it before, I'm always a bit nervous. I'm always like, right. Oh, God damn it. Is he going to like this? Is he not going to like this? But this one I was pretty confident that you would at least like, because, I mean, it's a fantastic script. Aliens aside, it is a fantastic script. Like the whole abduction element of it, the whole kind of mystery element of it. Like, it's just a really fantastically well done script. This movie was the original script was called The Cellar, and it was eventually turned into the spiritual success of the 2008 film. So it wasn't originally written as a Cloverfield film. It was when it was bought by Paramount and Bad Robot, that's when it became Cloverfield. And if you think, okay, and this is kind of going, like, not going too much into spoilers for Paradox, but if you think the aliens in this feel tacked on, then just wait for Paradox. Because that movie has it worse. Yeah, that movie has it a lot worse in terms of tacking things on. This movie, okay, so let me talk about the franchise overall. 2008, dude, I watched Cloverfield. That movie blew me away, man. Like, I raved about that movie to my friends, and I just remember them watching it and being so disappointed, because I think when you're a 15-year-old, you're kind of wanting to see the monsters a little bit more. You're kind of wanting to see the action a bit more. So I don't know, like, and I'm not saying I was like, my thinking of film was way ahead of them, like, you know what I mean? But it was just like, I love that movie because of the unique way it approached monster films. Like, I've seen, at that time, like in 2008, I've seen monster films. I've seen, like, the first Transformers was out. I've seen, like, big fucking giant entities destroying cities before. I've seen that shit. But nothing that's done it quite like the way Cloverfield 1 did it. The one thing about Cloverfield 1 that really, really drew me in was the marketing. J.J. Abrams produced the first film. That first film was directed by Matt Reeves, who's now doing the Batman. He did the last 2 Planet of the Apes films. He did Let Me In. He's a fantastic director. But J.J. Abrams is known for his really out there kind of marketing campaigns. And the first time I had ever seen like something like that was Cloverfield. I just remember like little viral images and little viral videos going up online about Cloverfield, and I was like, "What is this movie about? What is it about?" Because there was just so much out there that was indirectly connected to the movie, and he's like kind of like explaining the lore of this monster. Like, I remember reading this article online, and if you watch Cloverfield, like right at the end of the movie, it's like the final shot of the film. It's a main couple. They're out on this holiday, and if you look on the top right hand corner, you see a splash, and you just see like a satellite or some kind of alien craft falling into the ocean, and it's just like it's things like that that's kind of like thrown into the movie. Like, you know what I mean? That I really, really adored, and that came out through the marketing of it, like after the film. That movie is like chock full of like little tidbits like that. So I remember definitely 100% being pulled into that. And then 10 Cloverfield Lane came out. So 10 Cloverfield Lane, I was still working at Hoyt's, but I was working kind of in like the main sort of head office thing. And then what happened was I had never heard of this movie before. The timing of this movie was like it was scheduled to release in March, and then the first trailer came out in February. So it's so weird. Like the announcement of the film was followed by the trailer of the film was followed by the announcement of the film pretty much immediately. I'd never seen a movie that kind of like, a movie starring John Goodman and and fucking Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who I both know, and a movie that's kind of connected to the Cloverfield franchise. I would have thought that this would have a lot more of a marketing push, or I would have heard of it. I'd never heard of it before, like a month before release. And Paradox is even worse. Paradox, I remember last year in 2018, I was flying back from Boston. I was flying home, and I stopped over in Dallas Airport, and this was the day of the Super Bowl. And I remember, waiting around for my flight, and I was watching the Super Bowl on TV, and there was an ad that came on, and it was Cloverfield Paradox, and it was like streaming on Netflix after the Super Bowl. Like that's literally what the trailer said. Like streaming today after the Super Bowl, and that's when it was announced, because that movie was in production as God Particle was the name of the production. But yeah, I definitely remember following that movie pretty hard, and then eventually got dropped on Netflix. Like it was just like, meh, here you guys go. Like not that big of a deal. So yeah, this franchise, this is a weird franchise. I specifically chose this movie, 10 Cloverfield Lane, over Cloverfield and Cloverfield Paradox, because I 100% think that this is the best of the three. This is a fantastic film, dude. This is an actor's movie. This is a movie that's kind of like, if these three performances don't work, then this movie doesn't work. And this is a weird movie in the sense that it relies on you to kind of not have seen the first Cloverfield movie, but to know the first Cloverfield movie or what it's about. Because that first Cloverfield movie, it's about an alien or some kind of like an extraterrestrial entity kind of attacking a city, right? This movie relies on you to kind of know that information. And if you do know it, then great. Then that means that the information that Howard is feeding you via Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character, that might lend to some credibility, because the entire name of this game is Howard right? Like, you know what I mean? Is he correct?
Right, it's trust.
Right, it's all about trust. Like, are we supposed to trust him? But then we're given little clues and little breadcrumbs of no, this is a bad guy. This is a bad person. He's not trustworthy. And then we're given evidence on the contrary. So throughout this movie, dude, you're kind of thrown this way and that way, and you're just like, what the fuck is this outcome? And yeah, I 100% agree with you. The alien, this movie is weakened by the alien stuff. It's weakened by the Cloverfield connection ultimately, because every time I do watch this movie, I'm a bit like, oh, I don't know if I needed this. I don't know if I need this demo dog chase at the end. You know what I mean? I don't think.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think I need that. I would have much rather, like you said, a chemical contamination, or something a little more credible. But I'm not going to fully deduct points from that, because the previous hour and a half of what we just saw in this film is absolutely incredible. This is a fucking tense movie. I love movies that are full of tension, and this is just way up there, dude. But yeah, I'm really keen to cover this movie. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of the podcast. Colin, thank you for watching this for the first time.
Yeah, hell yeah, I enjoyed it.
Fuck yeah, dude. What do you say we get right into this bitch?
Let's do this shit, man.
Let's do this shit. So we kick off. We open on Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character, Michelle. She's hastily packing. There's an earthquake as we see the apartment shuddering. She's obviously upset as she talks on the phone and grabs a bottle of whiskey on her way out, leaving the keys behind and wedding ring behind. And dude, this is 3 minutes and we've already found out so much information. It's kind of like a masterclass in terms of storytelling. It's wasting no time, right?
Right. Well, it's definitely a master class in show and don't tell, with the fact that, it's inaudible dialogue, because it doesn't matter. The look on her face, the distress, packing, because at first you're kind of split. You're like, okay, so is it happening now? Is this the alien shit, or is this something else? And then as the scene kind of goes on and you see her packing stuff up, you see her grab the bottle, you see the ring, you see the keys, you're like, oh, okay, this is not alien shit. She would be freaking out a lot more. But at first, I think because it's got that Cloverfield title in there, you see her packing out the bag, you see the earthquake hit, you're like, all right, it's happening, and you're like, oh wait, no, it kind of pulls a little bit of a switcheroo on you.
Right, exactly. No, it absolutely does. And just I did go past just quickly. The poster for this movie is one of the best posters I've seen in a very long time. I actually own this poster. It's just a super wide shot, right? Like the top third of the poster is above ground, and you just see the sky and like the house, and then you see like the rest of it is just the ground, and then it's like this kind of like tunnel, and like it's this L, like it connects to the L, like the L connects to the surface, so the L in lane. And it's just like 10 Cloverfield Lane, and I love the tagline. It says "Monsters come in many forms," like obviously referring to Howard, and it's just a good, a damn good teaser poster. I love it. But yeah, dude, I love the music in this movie. Like the strings, the violins, it's great. We get these overhead shots of her driving along in tears. She stops at this gas station. Do you know about Slusho?
Yeah, I did a little bit of reading and YouTubing after I watched the movie, and I kind of picked up on the that it pops up in pretty much all of Abrams' stuff. It's almost like the Quentin Tarantino Red Apple cigarette kind of thing. It pops up everywhere. But I also noticed this gas station she stopped at is the Kelvin gas station. This is the one that gets destroyed in Super 8. It's a Kelvin gas station. And I mean, if you look at Abrams' stuff, Kelvin is, the Kelvin timeline in Star Trek, like it's over everything. There's always something Kelvin or Slusho in like all of his movies, which I think is interesting. I think it's funny because I sometimes I think people take that stuff and they run to the hills with it, like, oh, it's all connected. And I saw people saying that that the Slusho drink is what causes people to turn into Cloverfield monsters. And I was like, dude, it's just a funny Easter egg, man. Like, you're taking that shit and running it into the ground and running way too far with it. But no, I like those. It's not a vein that connects them. They're just tiny little nerves and threads, Yeah,
it's just a fun little nod. Like, yeah, I 100% didn't run with that. Like, I was like, because like Slusho shows up in Star Trek, like it's literally in the dialogue. Slusho mix, thank you. I don't think Slusho's in Star Wars. I highly doubt it is. If it is, then it must be really, really fucking small. Kelvin, didn't pick up on Kelvin, by the way. That was a good fucking connection. Because now that I think about it, the USS Kelvin is the ship in Star Trek that Chris Pine's father dies.
It's literally on everything. Like when I started watching, I was like, holy shit! It's on so much fucking stuff.
Yeah. She drives off. When she receives a call from Ben. Dude, do you know who the voice of Ben is?
Fucking Bradley Cooper.
Bradley fucking Cooper. Rocket Raccoon himself. Just so random. Like I don't know how or why, but random.
Yeah, and it sounds nothing like him. No. That's the thing. And even it still takes me a while to get over the fact that, when I think MCU, I never think Bradley Cooper, even though Rocket Raccoon is like, a fan favorite of a lot of people. I still don't ever associate him with like Rocket Raccoon,
I think American Sniper, but just because like we're hearing his voice here, that's why I was like, oh, Rocket Raccoon. But yeah, I don't know. First movie that comes to mind is American Sniper for me.
See, mine was always The Hangover because I think that's the one here that just blew him. Yeah, I mean, it just blew him the fuck up. But there is something really odd about like you would expect someone who's like typical in Abrams movies to pop up. Somebody who if this were a Quentin Tarantino movie. Oh, yeah, there you go. Or if this were a Tarantino movie, it would be like Samuel Jackson. Or if this were a Scorsese movie, this would be De Niro. Those people, if this were Burton, it would be Depp. But it's just weird because I'm like, I don't know of Bradley Cooper doing a lot of shit with J.J. Abrams or Trachtenberg? What is his first name?
Trachtenberg.
Dan Trachtenberg, which, by the way, he has not done a whole lot of other stuff besides this. He directed like the first episode of The Boys, which I thought was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
I know he's done a short film. Yeah, and he's done a short film, and he's doing a Harry Houdini biopic, from what I've heard. Now, I mean, that's to be announced. Who knows? I could fucking fall straight through, but I also don't want to go by the names of the people who wrote this. I mean, there's one of them that's got to stand out. Did you catch it at all?
Yes, Damien Chazelle, dude. Fucking Writer and
Yeah.
director of Whiplash and La La Land. Holy shit.
Yeah, and I think, didn't he direct First Man as well?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I always forget about First Man because they're not that's the one outlier from those other two that he's done. But yeah, First Man for sure. He's a fantastic director, dude. And his name, when it popped up, I was like, oh, what the fuck?
Right, yeah, that's the one that, yeah, it threw me off a little bit when I saw it. It's like, wait, Damien Chazelle, I know that name. And honestly, I haven't seen First Man or La La Land, so the only thing I really know him from is Whiplash. So it's really odd. I was like, wow, this does not seem like something that Damien Chazelle would be attached to, you know? But it's because when you think about it, this is not a sci-fi film. This is like a thriller. This is more like Misery than it is like Cloverfield.
Yeah, good.
And I think it's... Well, yeah, and I think it's interesting just seeing that, you know, this does not need to be like this a sci-fi film in the vein of like, oh, we got to have aliens and stuff at the end. But if you have a character like Emmett, it kind of has to be there, because why would Emmett be there if he didn't actually see something? And he's kind of like verifying stuff. So there's kind of a couple of different, if you want to make it a thing where there are no aliens and this is just how we're being paranoid, well, what did Emmett see? And if you start poking too many holes and trying to take too much stuff away, I'm like, well. Yeah, I could see it being something, but maybe it doesn't have to be fucking aliens, though. Like, come on.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Like, I just, it seems like it's it's burdened by the franchise that it's in, and the script is better than that, I think.
Right, 100%.
But yeah, also, dude, yeah, we talked about Abrams being one of the producers, but man, Matt Reeves, like, obviously because, you know, he directed the first Cloverfield. Matt Reeves, I can't sing higher about that guy, dude. Like, he has an amazing and very impressive like filmography. We covered Let Me In on the podcast already. He directed not Rise. He directed Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War of the Planet of the Apes. Those two films are fucking fantastic, especially Dawn.
Yeah.
And that's 100% why he's almost 100% why I'm really keen for the new Batman, because man, like, he's just such a fantastic director. But yeah, you know, it's Ben who's wanting to talk and asked her to come back before she hangs up. We're here on the radio of a rolling blackout over the eastern seaboard, right? And they're kind of like laying the seeds of like for what's to come. And then boom, car crash, right? This is obviously later, as we come to find out, it's Howard running her off the road. You know what I fucking love, dude? The editing here. I love the credits coming over the car crash. The sounds, like the sound going in and out. Just such a fucking fantastic design choice, man. So good.
Now, and I do love that, and I don't want to like jump over what you said, but let me ask you this. Do you think later on Howard's like, hey, I was driving like a maniac, I accidentally hit your car? Do you think he accidentally did it, or do you think Howard intentionally did this?
No, Howard intentionally did this because he saw her at the gas station.
Ah, that's right. Okay, so yeah, that is his truck. I was wondering about that because they really kind of show it, and I'm like, man, that's weird. They're kind of really pulling up on this truck. But I was wondering because he's so in between sometimes that it's until the end, it's really kind of hard to get a beat on him, you know. But I get it that he wants to like he wants a young lady here to kind of, you know, have that nuclear family kind of feel, like we're a family here, like blah blah blah. But you also get the impression sometimes that these people are like a burden, that he doesn't want them there. You know, it gets weird. There's a weird line that John Goodman toes really well on this, and like sometimes I can't really tell if he wants them there or if, you know, but it's funny because those moments where I'm like, oh, he doesn't want them there, is like those are directed towards Emmett. And, it's like the moments where he's a lot nicer. Like, he's never nice to Emmett this movie. Never fucking says a nice word to that guy, ever. Like, he's always like, you're a fucking idiot, shut the fuck up, like, blah, blah, blah. But to Michelle, he's just unbelievably nice the whole time. And that's kind of something in retrospect, I was like, oh, wow, yeah, he is always kind of a dick to him. So yeah, I was wondering about that because at first I was kind of curious, like, did he actually do it? Did he not? He kind of seems like he doesn't want him there. And I'm like, nah, yeah. Now that I know that it's him at the gas station, yeah, that makes total sense.
Well, this is how I read it, right? Like, I read it that he absolutely did drive her off the road. And because he's trying to, I guess, replace his daughter with Michelle, he's willingly brought Michelle into his bunker, whereas Emmett begged to come in. Like, you know what I mean? Emmett kind of, I don't know. We don't see the scene, but like I'm picturing Emmett kind of like, begging Howard to get the fuck in there, because that's what he does. Like, that's what he says, right? He's like, I willingly came in here. And I think that's why Howard kind of like takes the like takes it out on him a little bit because he doesn't want him there. He's there by necessity because Emmett asked him to accept him in there.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. It's definitely at some point I'm watching this and I'm like, you're both like two healthy young 30-year-olds. Like, beat the fuck out of him. Just tip him over and break his fucking neck already. Like, there's parts of like where I don't know.
Dude,
Howard's such an interesting character.
Yeah, he is. We can get to the physicality of it because man, Goodman. I don't think there's any tipping that guy over. Like I am scared for his health in this film. By the way, just as an actor.
Well, fucking. Somebody go low, somebody go high, and fucking topple that motherfucker over, dude. Knock Shrek off his ass. Come on.
I'm not even kidding. Knock Fred Flintstone off his ass. I'm not even kidding, dude. Like, yeah. There are scenes in this movie when John Goodman, it's a quiet scene and John Goodman's breathing, like you can hear him, he's like, and it scares the shit out of me. I'm like, John, please just get on a Stairmaster just for a little bit, please. Just for a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
He comes in with that ice cream at the end. You're like, that better be sugar-free, Goodman. That's all I'm saying.
He starts farting and shit. He's like, oh, there's lactose in here. All right, man, let's get into this. So, Michelle wakes up, sees that she's attached to an IV drip, and worst of all, it's chained to a wall. This gave me some Saw vibes. Like, whenever like someone gets abducted in Saw and they wake up and they're like attached to a trap. That's what this reminds me of.
Well, and if there's anything that sums up Howard as a character, I think it's just that shot of the brace on your leg. Hey, the handcuffs attached to the brace. What? It's a double-edged sword of like, you're surviving, but are you really living? Like, is this what life is now? Like, yes, you are technically physically alive, but it also comes at a cost. And I was like, that whole image right there just summed up almost the entire movie and almost Howard as a character for me. Like, our first impressions of him, like, is this really worth it if you have to deal with this type of shit,
Right, and I think that's what I like about the premise of the movie, right? Because like if you're presenting, because this movie is presenting Howard as a monster, right? But we also have inklings or suggestions of monsters above us, right? So it's like, which one would you rather prefer? Would you rather stay down here with Howard, or would you rather go up there and take your chances? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I love that kind of like that decision that she has to make, even though she doesn't fully know that there are monsters up there. It's fantastic.
Right. It's almost like being an adult. It's like, do you want to be, a worker bee going to this job that maybe, not everybody loves their job? Like, do you want to be this person going to that job every day, or do you want to have the freedom but no security? It's like, it's kind of a double-edged sword,
Yeah. So technically, I mean, in our metaphor here, Howard is work.
Right. Howard is the boss that you want to tip him over with the sugar-free ice cream.
Right. And I still maintain that there is no tipping him over, but we can keep going on this analogy. But yeah, this is such a fantastic scene, dude. Like, the sense of atmosphere and desperation already. And by the way, dude, I wrote down here, it's been 8 minutes. It's been 8 minutes since the movie started.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? This movie just moves so fucking well.
Well, and it was just kind of like what we were talking about with Misery, is like in the first 5 minutes, he's where we are. And it's like, for a movie that takes place in one area with 3 people that's an hour 45, you think they would draw that out a little bit more, but they don't. There's not even dialogue for like the first 5 minutes of the movie.
No, for sure. Absolutely. I love that we learn immediately that Michelle is resourceful. Michelle is a great character, by the way. She's got a lot of agency. She thinks for herself. Like, she's very she reminds me a lot of Ripley. And like, I know, Heresy, right? Like, I'm comparing her to one of the greatest action female heroines of all time. But she's a fantastically written character.
No, yeah, for sure. I actually was definitely getting some Sigourney Weaver vibes at some point. I was like, man, if they ever Blasphemy ever remade Alien, I actually wouldn't mind seeing Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Ripley. And as I got to watching this, I was like, no offense to Brie Larson, but I kind of want to see her as Captain Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think that she's I think she would be perfect for that role. She's tall, but she's got, like, there's something about Brie Larson I don't mind as Captain Marvel. I think she does okay. She's not my favorite, but I think she does a great job. But I want to see, and I've said this multiple times about different people. It's like, I want to see this person audition for this role. I want to see that audition reel. And I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead would be awesome for that.
No, absolutely. And I've always had the biggest crush on her, dude. Like, always. Like, ever since I was a kid.
Oh, Scott Scott Pilgrim, I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like you are, I mean, dude, there's a good chunk of time where I'm like, you are like every emo kid's boner dream, you know, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, for
and
me-
I mean, she's still, I mean,
Yeah, I was
go ahead.
just gonna say for me it was Die Hard 4.0.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, but there is something about like even now she's still. I mean, not that Scott Pilgrim was that long ago, but she's still like just a total knockout. I don't know what it is. Just this very like she kind of has a look of like she fucking hates everything all the time. But at this in Scott Pilgrim, but at the same time you're like, oh, I love that. It's something so funny.
She reminds me.
Oh, by the way, John Goodman.
I was just gonna say she reminds me a lot of Aubrey Plaza. You know, from Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. John Goodman is like 6'2" and 400 pounds. So
Holy
yeah, that might
fuck.
right. Which, see, to me, everyone's like, oh, that's fucking. You know, I'm like 6'4" and 300 pounds. I'm like, you know, I got a couple inches on him, but still 100 more pounds. Like, good God, man.
Dude, that's a behemoth. I'm sorry. I love you, John. I love you, John Goodman. By the way, man, this is one of his greatest performances ever. I'm just gonna straight up throw it out there. I know, you know, Big Lebowski, blah blah, but this is one of the best films I've seen John Goodman in, and like he gives it his all. When you see Howard, you feel his presence, and he does such a good job using his physicality.
Well, yeah, and there are times where I questioned, like, is Howard is he on the spectrum? Is he like borderline autistic? Like there's something like he is absolutely OCD. Like he is absolutely a control freak. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Like, but there was something I was like, is he? It seems like he's borderline on the spectrum. Like he's quick to these like really hardcore flights of like rage, and I think he's just a control freak who probably has, you know, some maybe he's not autistic or anything.
Well,
but,
I boiled it down to the idea that he's ex Navy, right? Like he's a veteran,
right? And I mean, and a shit ton of people have problems like adjusting to, you know, a normal life after that. Especially someone like Howard, who probably thrived in that kind of environment, and now in the real world, he's like, you know, he is very much so about like honor, and you know, I just want you to be honest with me, and I want us to be, you know, even with that shit with Emmett later on, he's like, yes, I accept your apology, and I believe him, even though his actions say otherwise. Like I believe him because Emmett just owned up to it. You know, and that's what's so interesting about it is that you can tell he's just this very honorable person of like a handshake and your word is all he would need. He would never sign a written contract. But if you went back on that, he would like skin your fucking cats and kill your wife, you know, like some crazy shit.
right? Very Ron Swanson-esque. Yeah.
Right. And all I can picture is John Goodman and like, oh, fuck, you've never seen Oh Brother Where Art Thou, have you?
No, I really want to. You know what? When we jump off this podcast, I'm watching it because it's on Netflix.
Oh, fuck, it's a better movie than this one. Let me tell you that. No.
Fuck you.
No, I'm from the South. It's like, Oh Brother Where Art Thou is like one of the best Coen brother movies ever made. I fucking love that movie. It's oh god, it's so. But he plays like he plays this huge dude with an eye patch on that's selling Bibles the whole time, and it's fucking hilarious. He's great in that movie.
He was also great in the Flintstones. I'm kidding. Fuck that movie. All right, man. So she manages to get a hold of her cell phone, and there's no service down here in the rape dungeon. Then enter John Goodman, who enters the room with a gun strapped to his hip and a tray of food. He tells Michelle that he's going to keep her alive and gives her crutches. By the way, dude, I love seeing John Goodman as a villain. I know he played the villain in Hangover 3. I mean, sure, you know, he had a great presence. He's the best part of that movie. That movie's not that amazing, but he's such a fantastic. It seems like he's having the greatest time, and I think that here as well. Like he's having a great time playing kind of like a guy that ends up being a monster. But yeah. Michelle says that her boyfriend was expecting her and he's going to send cops to find her, but Howard says, au contraire. No, he's not. Howard gives her the key to the chain. She gets dressed and onto her crutches looking for a way out. She starts sharpening the end of her crutch, so much so that the vampire Lestat would be afraid.
I was wondering, I would love if she stabbed John Goodman and he's just so fat it doesn't hit him in the heart and he's a vampire. It just doesn't get to him. But no, yeah, this whole thing, again, it reminded me of James Caan in Misery, just the resourcefulness of what is around you. What can you use? Use everything to your advantage. And I think that there is something interesting about Howard coming in. And for one thing, he's being so fucking vague, like just coming to be like, hey, I need you to listen to me. There's been an attack.
Right.
Like, I think it's all about the way that you do stuff. And Howard could not give a fuck. Like, he could not be bothered, which is just, I mean, that's just his character. That's the way it comes across. But he could not be more like mysterious and ominous and dark about it, you know? But then he comes in, the sign of like, of medical. It's just like, here's crutches. Like, here's something to aid you in the ability to walk. And it's like, that's such a universal sign of like, help, you know, and that's what's so interesting about it is like seeing this huge hulking grimacing guy come in and be like, hey, here's some crutches, I'm here to keep you alive. Like, okay, what the fuck? It's almost like, come with me if you want to live. You know, it kind of feels like that for a sec.
Right, exactly. Well, him not telling her, that was one of the factors that I kind of considered when I thought about him kind of having some kind of like ex-Navy PTSD or some kind of like he's unable to sympathize with someone who's in danger now. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he can't put himself in his footsteps or in his shoes, rather. That's kind of what I picked.
Right, yeah. He comes across just like, yeah, this is what life is now, so get used to it. And it's like, yeah, you have to give a normal person time to like adjust to the kind of life that you've lived for decades.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so she basically lures Howard back by lighting the thing. And he ends up overpowering her and drugs her. She wakes up to Howard telling her how lucky she is to be here. His generosity extends only so far. He says there's nowhere to go, that he saved her life and that he found her. This is where he lays down the fact that there's been an attack. Not sure if it's chemical or nuclear, but the bunker under his farmhouse is safe. He says that the attack means fallout, which means the air outside is contaminated. They could wait years. Russian weapons, alien weapons. But luckily, he's prepared for this. He says that everyone outside of here is dead. What were you thinking when you first saw this movie, Colin, around this time?
Well, it's kind of funny because, as we were talking about on one of our last episodes, I'm a huge fan of like the Watch Mojo shit on YouTube. We always just throw those on. We don't know what we want to watch. So this was in it was on some list. And basically, I knew how it ended for the most part. I was like 50-50, you know, I knew that there was some kind of legit reason for what he was talking about. Like, he wasn't just making all this up. But that was something that you kind of figure out when the woman comes to the door later on. You're like, okay, so this is legit, but that doesn't mean that like, just because he's right doesn't mean that he's not also a monster. Like those two aren't, you know, exclusive. Yeah. Right. And I like that. I like the fact that, you know, that even though the whole movie wasn't him just acting like ape shit because he thinks something's going on the surface, like there's stuff below the surface as well that's going on. But so he's not totally wrong. He's really not. Like, the air is toxic for a temporary, when the shit sprays its green mist everywhere, but then it's gone and you're pretty much fine. Like, but that's the thing, is nobody's totally wrong, nobody's totally right.
Not fully lying.
It's not
right.
Well, it's not the shit on the surface that gets him into the trouble. It's the shit that happens below that's what sets everything off. And it's like, I don't know. It's interesting seeing he's like, you know, you can't leave, blah, blah, blah. If she wants to die, that's her fucking right. Let her go out there and die. Like, you know, I know you don't want that to happen, but at the same time, like, why do you care so much? Like, just let that person go. It's not your life. Why do you give a shit, you know? And so it kind of becomes apparent as the movie goes on, like something else is going on here.
Right. No, exactly. 100%. But yeah, at this point, I'm like thinking, well, because like, even if Emmett is lying or, you know, is telling the truth about what's going on upstairs, he's still got this like crazy like bunker, right? And like he's kind of like already a bit of a tinfoil hat lunatic, right? Like he's one of those black helicopters, those guys. He's one of those,
right? Well, and it seems like he would just need the slightest excuse to run down there and just lock all the hatches, you know?
Right? Exactly. But yeah, so before Howard answers Michelle's questions about whether he has a family, we hear some clanging and banging. What did you do? God damn, that's scary, man. When he starts yelling, holy fuck. We still haven't yet met Emmett. We're only getting Michelle's point of view. Basically, that's the entire sort of film, right? Like I love that whatever Michelle sees, we see, and all the revelations that we get are via Michelle. Like, I kind of love that, you know, that element of storytelling. It's fantastic. Michelle wakes up to the sound of a car engine above her and her room door open. She walks outside and bumps into Emmett. And this is where, you know, we as the audience and also Michelle start doubting the credibility of Howard's story, right?
Oh, hell yeah. You're like, dude, this guy's a fucking whack job. But Well, it's also where we're questioning him, but then you're like, well, who's this dude? Like, why are you down here? Like, he seems so normal right off the rip. He's like the antithesis to oh God, John
Howard.
Goodman's character. Howard, Jesus. He seems like such the antithesis that it's kind of like, oh, okay, then yeah, I kind of, whatever this guy says, I have a little bit more of an inclination to believe it. But at the same time, he kind of comes across as like this dumb redneck. So you're like, this guy seems like he might be into InfoWars kind of shit. Like, you don't know. You're like, well, it can be easily duped, like kind of people, you know?
No, exactly. Like he seems, exactly. So, because Emmett says, like, he thinks he's been down here for a couple of days, and he kind of reveals that he's buying into Howard's story about the contamination. And then Howard appears and tells Emmett that he knocked over a shelf with a whole week's supply of food. And this is where I just kind of wrote down, man, God, like, John Goodman has just such great screen presence. Like, to me, it's not a surprise, like, with how well of a career he's made himself. Like, John Goodman is just such an absolute. Every time he appears in a movie, I'm like, oh, John Goodman. Like, in Atomic Blonde and shit. Like, he's awesome.
Yeah, John, nobody said anything, but he ate that week's worth of food.
And he blamed it on Emmett.
Right. It makes me think of that Family Guy where he's like, you can have what's left over. They're like, there's never anything left over.
Oh, my God, dude. That is one of my favorite cutaways in that show, dude. Like, it's like, I think the way they set it up is Peter, like, being like, oh, yeah, this is like Christmas at the Goodmans. And it's just like, John Goodman at the head of the table just eating, and then one of the kids like reaches out for a turkey. He's like, I told you can have what's left.
Well, and it always, like, anytime you see somebody who's that heavy set and like in a post-apocalyptic movie, I'm like, hey, kill that person because they're gonna slow you down. They're gonna end up taking twice the rations. Like, just fucking kill that.
You can live inside his ribs like a tauntaun, right? But yeah, so Howard takes Michelle out to the common area, and we can see that he's prepared for a long stay. Right, fully functional kitchen, DVDs, games, furniture. Dude's fucking prepared. Notably, Michelle stumbles with the crutches, and Howard barks at Emmett, who tries to hold her up. No touching, he says. And at this point,
yeah, that's weird.
Well, I mean, like at this point, this is before we find out anything about the daughter, about Megan. At this point, I'm like, does he want her? Okay, very darkly, is this like a sexual thing that Howard wants Michelle for? Is that what it is? But
I don't. I think
it's
first
the
jump,
daughter
maybe.
Thing. Yeah, it's
right.
Sorry, go on.
Right, no, you're right. No, you're right. It's a hey, that's my daughter. Don't
right.
You don't touch my daughter that way,
That's what I got from it. I mean, like, but obviously we don't find that information out until much, much later. So at this point, I'm kind of thinking this is he kind of wants her, right? And I'm just like, that's creepy. But yeah, he takes her to the bathroom in his own room. Super awkward. I can't trust you not to burn the place down. This is for my own safety, he says as he stands there. We get a quick shot of a surviving Doomsday book, and we get a look at the duck curtain, which is going to come back. So Emmett sees a stack of magazines belonging to Megan, who's, quote, not with us anymore. The lights dim. Michelle suggests it's a car, but Howard scoffs at the idea. There's nobody left to call. He's got a radio set up and nothing's coming through. He tries to defend his paranoia. Crazy is building your ark after the flood has already come. What a great quote, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's not... As much as it sounds paranoid, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you,
No, absolutely. And then we go and meet Frank and Mildred, right? They go up to the entrance of the bunker, which is two massive double doors. He says it's the closest I could get to an airlock. And Michelle peers outside and sees the two dead pigs rotting away, surrounded by flies. And Howard says it's the air that killed him. Just before she leaves, she spots the pickup truck that ran off the road, damage and all. And Emmett chats with Michelle. She asks what he knows about Howard, who says he was in the Navy, working with satellite stuff. Is what he says. He bought this property a while back, and Howard hired Emmett to help him set it up. He's a black belt in conspiracy theory. She's surprised because she thought Howard kidnapped him, but Emmett was trying to get in. Right? That was a big part for me, because it's like this. Maybe Howard's not as crazy as we think, because we kind of see that Emmett's on the level. Like, Emmett's not a crazy person, so for a normal person to trust Howard, it's kind of, okay, so maybe Howard's not that bad. Do you know what I mean?
Right, yeah. I think this is where the doubt ends up coming in, because think about, like, in a natural situation like this, you would automatically be on the fence. What the fuck are you talking about? You crazy person. There's no evidence of this. I see the outside world. There's not any fight. It's not desolate. It's not Book of Eli. What the fuck? And then, you have a person there who's like, oh no, I'm here like voluntarily. Like I had to beg to get in here and I saw the attack. And you're like, well, now what do I think? Because this dude is so relaxed and nice and smiling and just calm and really go with the flow that, he is, like I said, he's the antithesis. He's the antithesis of, God damn it. Why do I keep,
Howard.
I keep wanting to say Walter. I keep wanting to say fucking Walter from Big Lebowski.
Nice.
He is the antithesis of Howard. So it's the right person to believe that. Like if it were flipped and, Howard was this, hey, what's going on? Yeah, I saved you, blah, blah, blah. And then you had this stone cold, dead fucking, oh no, I saw the attack, blah, blah, blah. Like if you saw that, it would be, the flip would just be a little bit more weird, but because he's the nice guy delivering it, it's easier for us to digest.
No, absolutely. And like that's again, what you just said, that's when the doubt sets in, because I need to know whether Howard, the information he's giving is credible. And I mean, like, that's the ultimate premise of this movie, right? Like, it's like, do we trust Howard? And yeah, I mean, any evidence to suggest the contrary is, fucked up. But she tells Emmett that Howard abducted her. The purpose of the shelter is a lie. But Emmett says he physically saw the attack, saw the explosion, like something you read about in the Bible. And he fought his way into the bunker, right? Goddamn. This is some crazy fucking evidence that we're hearing here. Goodman, dude, first time I saw this movie, Goodman gave me a damn good jump scare here. How do you know the air is contaminated? Because I told him. Dinner's ready.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking creepy, dude. And then we get the awkward dinner scene, right? He opens up the 2 drinks of the bottle opener attached to his keychain. He talks about Megan a bit more, right? Megan was a good cook. You'll love to learn cooking. What the fuck? What?
Right,
the
yeah.
fuck?
Right, and I'd love if he's just like, I'm not going to be your daughter. He's like, no, just, because you're a woman, right? Women do that shit. Like, just love to see like Emmett look at him and be like, dude, you've changed. Like some really crazy, like make him seem like this old prick.
She walks into the kitchen and she sees like half made sandwiches, and he's like, I don't remember how to do it. I needed a woman to finish the sandwiches. Oh, dude.
He's like, I always got to the second part. I never had to do the first.
Exactly. I couldn't put the other slice on top. Just didn't work for me. Emmett talks about tattoos and how he always wanted one. And goddamn, John Gallagher is great here, dude. Just trying to deflate the tension.
Oh, yeah.
As Emmett's talking about this, we see Howard just kind of staring at Michelle, right? Like he's looking at her reactions to Emmett's jokes, and it's Michelle just kind of like laughing at her, at his jokes. And, this is, as we can see in Howard's face, this is not something that he enjoys, right? He doesn't want to see her laughing at Emmett's jokes.
Right, yeah. Again, it's that unbelievably controlling part of what's going on, and I think that Howard is looking at Michelle watching Emmett, but then Michelle starts watching Howard watch her, and she kind of notices that, and then you can tell she's like, oh, can you pass the salt?
Yeah.
Like, can you pass the pepper? And then they kind of touch hands, and she knows she's just as smart as Howard is, if not smarter. She's like, how she can defeat Howard is the fact that she's cool, she's level-headed, and she's intelligent. Like, Howard is very intelligent, but he's not cool-headed at all, and she uses that to her advantage.
No, dude, Howard just absolutely explodes here. But before we get to that, I just want to mention this quick joke. I love like how Emmett's just like, you're going on a pilgrimage to Waco. Like that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Dude. But yeah, man, like she asks for the pepper, she touches Emmett's hand, and then boom! It's like a fucking explosion, dude. Like, Goodman is just absolutely incredible here, right? Like, he says he knows what a traitor looks like and that she's ungrateful, and he wants her to apologize, which she does. Dude, the invasion of personal space here is just so incredibly unsettling. It's just so well shot, and just his frame, right? Like his massively heavy set frame against her kind of like slight petite frame, just so well fucking done.
Well, and I think what's interesting here is, in all honesty, the two of these people, if she doesn't have a bum leg and he doesn't have a bum arm, they fuck this dude up like no problem. I really do think that. I think that Emmett's overweight. He's not Emmett. God damn it. Howard's overweight. He's older. He lets his temper get a hold of him. Like, I see them fucking him up. So I think that they have to have those handicaps there because, I mean, they could easily fuck this dude up. I think so. They would let that temper do its magic.
I'd be with you if he didn't have the gun. I think I'd be with you on that if he didn't have the gun. That's
the thing. You would have to strike at like that perfect moment and have one person going to the blow to distraction and the other person going to get the gun. But what I think is interesting is, when he's, like you said, that invasion of like personal space, it made me think about the fact that, he keeps saying, oh, you need to show me a little appreciation. I saved your life. I said, I did this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, why don't you just, if I'm so ungrateful, if I'm so unappreciative, why don't you just let me get the fuck out of here then? Why don't you just let me go? And he won't. And it's like, I'd love if somebody were like, if we're just so ungrateful, then just fucking let me out of here, but he doesn't. And that's what's so interesting about it is like, you want to act like a fucking dick the whole time and not let anybody out of here, but then at the same time you want them to like suck your cock for you letting them in here in the first place. It's so strange.
No, it is definitely weird. I never thought about it like that. Good point. See, sometimes you do bring some damn good points to the podcast. Lucky to have you.
Hey, sometimes yeah, and I mean just FYI, I've had a stomach bug for the last 24 hours. I've been shitting water, so I'm surprised my brain has not turned into crap either. I'm like, hey, I actually made a good point.
Boom. Shitting water. Love it.
New band name, called it.
Yep, that's a t-shirt right there. Shitting water. Shitting water by Midnight Double Feature.
Yeah, Midnight Double Feature, freshly squeezed and shitting water.
But yeah, man, moving on. The tension here, dude, is so great. I love because he grabs his bottle and says, you have to stay hydrated. And he just plays around with the bottle. And, you kind of that she's taken his keys at this point. So, and you also know that he has to reach down to his belt line and grab the keys, right? To undo his new bottle. So at what point is he going to do this? And at what point is he going to realize? And there's just amazing setup and amazing payoff, I think. He does reach down. Michelle hears the car overhead and just makes a break for it. Dude, bottle to the face.
Yeah, I like that. Again, it's use what you got, and what you got is a couple of oh god, what's the fucking term that I heard? A couple of hobo knife fights going on here. Where you break the fucking bottle and have one like right on. Again, she's using what she's got right there. Not only that, right, there you go, the Irish knife. She busts him in the face with that bottle, and then not only that, she flips the shit over so he can't get to her as fast, No,
absolutely. But yeah, she gets to the door and is able to get through the first door. She spots the car with its headlights on as Howard pleads not to do this. And then, boom, the woman appears, deformed face, begging to be let in. And at this point, I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening in this movie? She's begging her, banging on the door, trying to convince Michelle that it barely touched her. It barely touched her. And Michelle backs off, right?
Yeah, well, and they have to really, if you look this woman up, what she looks like, she's fucking hot. Like they have to really make her look, grotesque in this. But again, yeah, it's kind of, it's just so interesting because it's like, yeah, the air is apparently, not breathable, but wouldn't this woman just be like melting in front of their eyes? Right. Like when you start thinking about it, like, it's kind of like when you're playing Fallout 4 and you go south and you start hitting the real, toxic parts of that place. It's like, dude, that shit will kill you in a matter of minutes. Like this lady's obviously been alive long enough to get in her car, drive here, know that they're there, and she's like banging on the door and shit. So it's like, well, what the fuck is going on? So yeah, that's what's interesting about it is, yes, it adds credence to what Howard has been saying, but it also opened so many more doors to me when I was watching this. It's like, even though I partially know the ending to this, I don't know the details, and seeing this woman answered questions, but unloaded a lot more for me. And I was like, whoa, wait, what? Why? How? And I was just like, hold on.
No, yeah, absolutely. To me, man, it's like fantastic storytelling, right? Like it answered questions and it raised some new ones. I didn't really focus too much on like what the effects of the fallout were, because I don't know which direction she's coming from. I don't know where this farmhouse is situated. I don't know the level of like potency of the radiation. Like I don't know any of these things. Like I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like do you know what I'm getting at here? Like she could have approached from the other side where a nuclear bomb could not have gone off anyway. I don't know. I don't know. Like, there's just so many like variables.
Right. I mean, they could be in a safe zone. You know, they could be in a spot that was totally away. I mean, from what you can tell, you don't see any birds, you don't see any planes, you don't see any outside life. It's like you could be out in the middle of the fucking boonies and never have any idea that this bomb even came close, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Alan Michael Pauls is going to hate us because you just missed an opportunity. You said you don't see any birds, you don't see any planes, and you could have just said you don't see any Supermen.
Yeah, you don't see any chiseled teens running through cornfields learning how to fly.
Exactly. Cut to Michelle back in her room, defeated. Howard's changing the light bulb and confesses that he crashed into a car on purpose. When he found out about the attack, he crashed into a car accidentally. When he found out about the attack, he was driving negligently as he tried to get back to his bunker. He was afraid to tell her, and he apologizes. At this point, we have to give Howard some credibility, right? Because like he's apologized and he's owned up to something. Like he's being honest about something. So now the needle's kind of like drifting a little bit the other way.
Right. He has completely switched gears, and I think that, because I think that again, he's an intelligent person, but he's also manipulative, and I think that because it's so interesting, like it almost ends up being too good of a coincidence that he happens to hit this, you know, that he hits this woman's car, and then the bombs fall. Part of me feels like, you know, he sees Michelle, and he's like, oh, it'd be nice to, you know, have somebody else, and then the bombs hit. And he's like, fuck it, this is my chance. Might as well just go for it. Part of me is like, does he do it and it's just a coincidence that the bombs fall? Or is it actually like an accident that he hits her car? Like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm still kind of foggy on that because he just so happens to hit her car on purpose when the bombs fall. Like, I don't know. I can still believe that it's like an accident. You know, part of it to me can still believe that, but it's a little bit more of a stretch. It's just because there's not a clear cut answer there. But getting back to what you just said is exactly right. He's got to switch gears here at this point because he's done the whole mystery, ominous, everybody's going to die and the flesh gets turned inside out like that weird gas in the Treehouse of Horror Simpson episode. You know, it's kind of, he's got to switch gears now, and he's got to play that side of like, you know, I'm sorry, this is really what happened. I was not honest with you. You know, he kind of comes across as honesty is very important to me, and I was not honest with you, and I should have been honest with you. And it's really interesting because, but he's also at this moment, the biggest sign is actions speak louder than the words. He's like, I need your help. I need you to do this for me. And I need you to stitch my head back up. Like that is a huge sign of the olive branch being passed over to the other person, you know?
Right.
He could stitch himself up. Are you fucking kidding me? He could do that in a minute. That is a total sign of trust.
No, he can absolutely stitch himself up, but we also have to take into account what else is doing here, and that's him giving her Megan's clothes. This is like the first kind of like instance where he's actively trying to make Michelle Megan. Right? Like, so, you know, him kind of like patching things up with her, him kind of like showing I trust her. He's trying to make her sympathize, right? Like he's trying to make her get comfortable with him. That's what I got from it.
Right. Well, the real twist when we come to find out that Howard was blind the whole time at the end of the movie, it's just incredible.
Nice.
No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, he distills his own vodka. Howard talks about his old days as a Navy officer. He offers her a drink and they get to it. Get to the stitching, right? Sorry, not anything else. Howard talks about how Megan, his daughter, wanted to be an artist. She inhaled books, loved Paris, and Howard is genuinely endearing here. He seems like someone who has actually suffered loss, right? He says, people are strange creatures. You can't always convince them that safety is in their best interest. So, yeah, essentially we find out that, you know, his wife ran off with his daughter, because he was fucking nut. He's a nutcase, essentially.
Right. Yeah. Now, is this the part where he says something about the locks on people's doors and the security systems in their houses? It's a really good quote, but I can't remember if it's right here or if it's like a little bit later on.
It's here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that was a really good quote because he's like, you know, you people wear seatbelts and you lock your doors, but when those things go off, you basically deny them when the shit really hits the fan. And he's like, but I look like the crazy person because I went that extra yard, basically. And it's like, damn, that's a fucking good point, you know?
Yeah. Alex Jones will be super proud.
Yeah. The fucking terrorists are going out to kill all of our kids, and they're going to swap them out with rabid human pig embryos.
Yeah.
I've seen the camps. I've seen the camps.
Nice. I don't know if you're doing Alex Jones or Jesse Ventura. I'm not too sure.
Either way, the blood pressure is like 220 over like 100.
Yeah.
It's like the blood pressure's just through the roof.
The veins in your heads are just popping out of your skull. But yeah, so we also learned that Michelle wanted to design clothes, right? Very important. Michelle and Emmett talk through the wall. This scene is really well done, by the way. These two actors are just fantastic, man. Holy shit. They talk about their regrets. Emmett was accepted into college, and when it came time to leave, he got cold feet, got wasted, and missed the bus. Didn't buy a ticket for the next one or the following buses. Well, if he'd gone, you'd be dead by now, says Michelle.
Right.
And Emmett considers himself lucky.
Now, do you ever watch the Everything Wrong With channel on YouTube? The guy who's like, everything wrong with this movie, everything wrong. And it's funny. It's not meant to be really... Right, yeah, okay, okay. I couldn't remember the actual name of the YouTube channel. Now, he does this movie, and just for shits and gigs, I watch it. Just for shiggles, I decided to watch it. And this part is so fucking funny because he's like, they have a conversation that totally didn't need to happen on opposite sides of a concrete wall, and everyone can hear each other just fine. And I fucking laugh my ass off so hard. But I love the contrast of, obviously he's facing one way, she's facing the other, but the blue and the darkness surrounding him, and then the pink and the light kind of surrounding her. It's a good bit of imagery, but it's almost got this kind of almost like imagery foreshadowing in a way that like things are not going to wind up well for Emmett, but for her, it's the grass is greener, like it's brighter literally on the other side. I was like, there's something about that I really like and I really dig.
No, it's absolutely correct, dude. Like, I mean, whenever because M. Night Shyamalan does a lot of this, like he always works with colors, like, specifically clothing. And this feels ominous, like in terms of Emmett, right? Like you kind of like get the sense that something's gonna happen. And whenever characters go into kind of like long sort of like monologue-y soliloquies like these, then that's not really a good sign, is it?
Well, no, and I'm going to say something too here. I love that there's no romantic bullshit between the two of them.
Thank you.
I love that. And I'm not going to lie, they're both two very pretty people. Like Emmett's a handsome man. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is fucking gorgeous. You could absolutely see it happening. And I think this scene, if it goes any further, if they were to stay down there for like years and all this other stuff, I think that it's logical to see the two of them like, hey, we're roughly the same age. He's not 55 years old and 400 pounds overweight. Like, this could kind of work. But I like the fact that that's never even an option on the table. It's almost kind of like, I don't know. It becomes more of a thing of like siblings versus the father in a weird way. Like it has this very kind of kind of turning on the family like kind of thing. And I say that only in the terms of like where Howard is like, we're a family. This is going to be our family, but they just kind of rebuke that, and I like that a lot.
Right, they're acting out
because right. Well, I mean, when you look at the cameras too, boy, girl, blue, pink. It's kind of like there's something about that to me that just screams like a sibling-esque kind of relationship.
Yeah, love it. Fucking hell, you're on fire today, dude. You should shit water more often.
Oh, yeah. I know, right? We got to take a break here in a minute because I got to go shit some water. No, I'm just kidding.
We actually,
I'm feeling a lot better now.
We actually are taking a break very, very soon. Just before we do though, I don't want to skip past this one last moment here in this conversation. Michelle talks about this little girl with her dad, right? And like kind of like this is the writers kind of giving us a reason as to how Michelle came to be the way that she is. She's a very proactive, very resourceful young woman. She tells this story about this girl she saw. Basically the dad kept yanking on her arm very roughly. She says she knows that feeling. Her dad was physical and she relied on her brother Colin. She thought she could do that.
Oh, yeah.
Be the Colin for the little girl. But she just kept watching and didn't take action. The girl's father ends up hitting her. Michelle did what she always does and when things get hard, and she panicked and ran, right? I mean, like that kind of like says, hey, you've changed, right? Like, well, you have to change in order to survive this. So, yeah. I think that's a perfect place.
I like that. I like that scene, but at the same time, it makes me laugh of him. It's like, really? I shared one of the biggest mistakes of my life, and that's all you got for me? Some kid in the store? Like, it kind of made me laugh. Like, I get it. It's still a good setup for her character, and she does talk about her family like in that way. So we kind of get a foot in both worlds. But it did crack me up, and it's like, well, fuck me, I guess. Jesus, lady.
Yeah, man. John Gallagher Jr. is just fucking fantastic here. And both actors are fucking on fire here, man. This might be one of my favorite scenes of the movie, actually. This is a movie that's full of tension, full of like, technically crazy action sequences, but not really action. But in terms of acting, this is my standout scene. All right, man. This is about halfway. What do you reckon about taking a break right here?
Sounds good, buddy.
Awesome. Guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more 10 Cloverfield Lane. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever the hell you are. Thanks so much for listening to this episode, guys. Just while we're taking a quick break here, I am going to plug some shit. No, it's not advertising. It's nothing paid. It's basically just kind of self-masturbatory stuff. Basically, follow us. Follow us on our socials. We have 2 pages on Facebook called Midnight Double Feature, obviously, and then we have our main group, which is called The After Party, which is fantastic. Our community loves to engage there, and that's our main way to communicate with our audience. Please follow The After Party. That's a fantastic page. And please follow us on Instagram, which is at Midnight Double Feature, and Twitter, which is at MDF Pod. You can listen to us anywhere on iTunes, anywhere on Spotify, on YouTube, wherever. And if there's no way that you can listen to us on your device, please let us know by getting in touch with us. You can do that by sending us an email, which is midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. Now, last but certainly not least, please remember to rate and review us on iTunes. We would love to get your guys' feedback, whether it's positive or negative. Just please remember to, put a star and let us know in your little speech bubble thingy what you think of us and where we can improve. That would be fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for listening to my little rant here, and back to the show, I guess. See you later. What's up, guys? We are back. We are freshly squeezed. Colin, what's going on? You still with me?
Oh, yeah. Freshly squeezed and freshly shitted. I'm good to go.
Freshly shitted. Nice. All right. We're jumping right back into 10 Cloverfield Lane. We get a little bit of a montage to show the passing of time, but also get a sense of the comfort all three develop between one another, right? Like they put together puzzles, they play board games, make food together, watch VHSs.
I do wish the song had just been like stuck in the middle with you.
Nice.
I don't know. There's something about that. I wish it had been that song.
Fucking Michael Madsen's walking around with like a blade, just like with a random ear.
Yeah, him holding the ear, being like, "Can you hear me?"
Nice. Emma checks out the drawing that Michelle is working on. Suggests she consider post-apocalyptic fashion. They hear rumbling again. Sounds like helicopters. Could be helicopters, but not the U.S. Army. Howard suggests that these are ground sweeps following the blasts. What they just heard were airborne patrols sent to hunt down the remaining signs of life. Yeesh.
That's a lot to infer from.
Right.
I'm just saying. I'm like, I mean, there's no possible way it could just be normal helicopter. Like, I don't know. That's one of the leaps. I was like, okay, 14 years of Navy. I get it. I understand that. But like, still though, like, holy shit, that's a lot to infer.
Right. It feels like he's making it up. Like if you have an inkling that Howard is a liar, then this is like kind of like a little more evidence that he is lying, right? Like this is just like, well, this is clearly a lie.
Well, and I want to ask you something too, and not to jump too far ahead, but it's just because I see it over his shoulder in this scene. We see the radio, like the CB radio or whatever the fuck it is. And then at the end, those messages are loud and clear where that woman's like, hey, you can go here and be safe, or you can come here and fight. Is Howard just not getting those, or is he deliberately on a channel where they can't like get to it? Like what was your interpretation of that?
I never really considered that. I think it's a possibility because she drove kind of far away, or like she drove to a different location where she's probably able to pick something up.
Right, and they're underground, so it might be kind of harder to,
Exactly. They're underground, and like, it's a possibility that there are like alien ships like directly above them, whereas like where she was when she picked up that radio signal at the end, she wasn't really necessarily near an alien craft. Like she was kind of headed towards one, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't really think about it that much. You know what? If he that would be a really cool element if he was kind of like deliberately not receiving messages. That would be really cool. But I don't really have any evidence to kind of like support that, unless, you know, it's just another like tidbit that the filmmakers are like, well, here you go.
Right. I wonder if it's like if there had been a thing of her going for the radio and she realizes it's like cut, you know, like Annie Wilkes with the empty phone, like that kind of shit, then it would be like, yeah, that's 100% solidified,
right.
You know?
Right, exactly. Howard does something here that I hate in films, dude. So the alarms go off and he's like, oh, that's bad. And then like the next shot of them is like downstairs when he figures out the air filtration system is down, and he finishes his sentence there. He's like, and that's worse. Like, you know what I mean? It's like in Speed.
Oh, I like that.
Well, like, okay, but is he realistically like pausing his sentence mid-sentence and then finishing it when he goes downstairs? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those, like, we pick up the magic wand of movie bullshit and sprinkle it over the movie, and it's like, it's cool. I like it strictly for the editing. That's what I love.
Editing-wise, it's great. Realistically, it's just like, all right, guys, hold on just one sec. I got to finish my sentence downstairs. Just bear with me one sec. Remember what I said.
Oh, yeah, it always makes me think of like the Batman movies when someone's like, well, what are we going to do? And they turn around and he's just gone. So I wonder when they turn their backs, is he just like perched like 1, 2, and just jumps like right at the opportune times or something?
That's great. They have to turn the system back on. To do that, Michelle has to crawl through the vent and restart the air filtration system. And man, this shit, I hate this shit because I can feel my claustrophobia just kicking in, dude, when she's like writhing her way through the vents. Ugh, dude, just get me the fuck out of there, dude.
Well, and there's something interesting. The claustrophobia there is very Die Hard to me also. But when she gets into this room, the thing I love is there's this piece of mail on the floor. And when you see her kind of shuffling around, and it actually says Howard Stambler, 10 Cloverfield Lane, Charles, Louisiana. And you're like, oh, cool. Like it was actually right there in front of you for like half a second. But then the company, it's kind of hard to read. Hold on just a second. It's Tagarudo or Tegarudo Company. I think they're actually mentioned in like Cloverfield and shit in the universe of Cloverfield. Because from what I understand, and this is just my limited YouTubing and stuff before we did this episode, was the reason Cloverfield happened is they were drilling for like oil in the ocean and they hit the Cloverfield monster. It's not like maybe it is some alien thing, but it's been doing like a Pacific Rim. Like it's like down in the earth or whatever. And I'm pretty sure that's the company that hits the Cloverfield monster. And they apparently use like they did a lot of like what is it? It's like augmented reality kind of games for shit like this. And I looked it up and there was a bunch like yeah. Well, it was before VR though. I can't remember. It's like ARG something. I can't remember, reality game or something, augmented reality game. But it goes through all this stuff, and there's like a timeline of Howard building the bunker. There's a bunch of different things of like him talking about like his wife taking the kid, and then what he calls Megan Prime being allocated, and you're like, oh shit, that's the Britney girl, you know? And you're like, oh fuck. But they did a lot of that stuff, like you were mentioning at the top of the episode, this crazy viral marketing campaign that they would do, and this company would use part of what they found in the ocean to make the slusho drinks and stuff. Like just from, and I might be, yeah, this is not the 100% of the details on it. This is just kind of the general idea that I got. But I'm pretty sure that company is actually the one it's kind of like Weyland-Yutani. Like I'm pretty sure they're the ones responsible for drilling and hitting the Cloverfield monster in the ocean and stuff.
That's pretty cool. I never knew any of that. If I had to take a guess, what is it? Tagarudo Company? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's hold on, like Togutra. Tagarudo. I can't pronounce it that well. But they're in. From my like, it sounds Japanese, right? Like from my it says Tokyo, Japan. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because like from my recollection. And this, I might be completely off base here or off track. In the first film, they're having a party for the main character who is moving to Japan, right? I think from memory. Right. I think it's because he got a new job in Japan. And I'm not sure if, that's the company he works for or some shit. But this is like, I haven't seen this movie in ages, by the way. Like, that's all I remember. So, yeah. And like from memory, I believe Abrams and Reeves put that in because it was kind of like a reference to kaiju, like, Godzilla, and like obviously where, it's Tokyo, right? So Japanese monsters.
Right. I'm looking on the Cloverfield fandom, like wiki page that it has is a Tagaruda. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Is a Japanese mining company owned by Ganu Yoshida with oil rigs in the Atlantic, Pacific, Arctic, and Indian Oceans using what they call groundbreaking deep sea drilling technology. They also own subsidiaries that deal in deep sea genetic research, advancing technology, paraffin wax byproducts, blah, 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 and a cold beverage company called Slusho. So, the Tagarudo company recently announced that one of their Atlantic Ocean oil rigs has suffered an unknown altercation that an eco-terror cell is responsible for the disturbance. So there you go.
Damn.
Right. So like there's all these kind of things that are connecting it of, you're right, the guy in Cloverfield is going to be the vice president of I think the Slusho company, I'm pretty sure. But the Tagarudo company is the one who owns Slusho. So it's all kind of connected in these small little ways. But I just thought it was interesting of like, just on that quick piece of mail, we see where the title comes from, and we also see a connection to the original Cloverfield film. I didn't mean for this ramble to go on that long, but I was like, boom, here's this little thing. Another little thing is actually, oh God, what's his name? He's in the show Gotham, and he was in Ghost Rider. He Grounded for Life. He's in Zodiac. Brasco. I can't remember his name. But he's a fucking great actor. But he's in it for just a minute in the Cloverfield paradox, and he's doing an interview, and his last name is actually sorry, what is this? What is the fuck is?
I'll look it up. Just keep going.
Donald Logue, that's his name.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, he's in Sons of Anarchy. Yeah.
Right, Donald Logue is in there, and they're doing an interview with him, and I can't remember his first name, but his last name is the same. It's the Stambler. It's his last name is the same as I keep wanting to say Walter. It's fucking Howard's. So I just thought it was interesting. There's all these different connections, like just from that one piece of paper,
That's cool, man. Like I definitely really like the world building, and I know. Usually, I'm not a fan of it like happening kind of like not in film. Like if it's kind of like in marketing, then I'm just like, I don't know. But Cloverfield, for some reason, it seems to work. Like, I dig it. I dig it.
Right. Well, there's little things sprinkled throughout it. Like when you're watching the first Cloverfield movie, there's interviews that are in Japanese and you can't understand it, but the logo of the Tagarudo company is up. And it's these hands holding like a heart or something, and you can totally see it. You're like, holy shit. And then they do that interview with Donald Logue in Cloverfield Paradox. It's like a big part of the movie, and it says like so-and-so Dr. Stambler. I was like, oh shit. So like, it's actually the campaign shit is kind of like, well, if you don't put it in the movie, how the fuck am I supposed to know that? But when it's actually in the movie, I'm like, holy hell, that's cool. You just kind of have to have that little bit of a watchful eye for it.
Yeah, I remember Abrams doing something kind of similar for Super 8, but I can't really put my finger on what it is. But yeah, he's a fucking master when it comes to this kind of stuff, dude. Like he's really good at advertising his films. But yeah, she gets to the unit and restarts the system before she leaves, and she finds a ladder leading up to a skylight. She heads up and looks at the blue sky, tries to open the hatch, but it's padlocked. Amazing pants-shitting reveal as she sees the etching of the word help. Fuck.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
She heads back down and finds something. We don't know what it is yet, but in the next scene, it's Michelle whispering to Emmett saying that Howard lied and she thinks that he did something horrible to Megan. And she finds earrings with blood on them. Right? This is that kind of like also pants-shitting reveal that it's not Megan, right? The photo. It's a missing girl Emmett used to go to school with. And I'm just like, what in the world? Like the earrings match the ones the girl is wearing in the photo. They find a photo inside a book of the girl wearing the same goddamn shirt that Michelle is wearing, with Howard wrapping his arm around her. Like at this point, it's just like, what the fuck is happening?
Right. Well, and part of me, the biggest question I had at the end of this movie was like, what happened to that girl? Like if this, so this is like Megan 2.0. This is the Brittany girl who like disappeared. So obviously, Howard abducted her after his family went missing, or whatever. But like, what ultimately happened to her? And then we see later on with the vat, with the
acid.
Big tub. I was like, oh shit, okay. So it kind of took me a minute of like, I don't mind this with these movies though. Sometimes there's some shit that gets left out that I got to Google, and I'm kind of annoyed, but like I didn't hit this like right away of like, well, wait, what exactly happened to her? And then I mean, maybe it's just me. I wasn't like on top of it, and I was like, oh wait, yeah, the vat of acid. So she didn't want to play ball, and she gave up, and he was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna put you in this thing of acid. And I was like, oh my god, like that's fucking crazy. So basically, she hit a point where she was not role playing anymore, and just decided to say fuck it, and he did the same basically and threw her in a vat of acid, like fucking like Who Framed Roger Rabbit bullshit.
Just dark as fuck, by the way, super dark. But I love like this scene when they kind of like figure this out, and Howard just he goes up to the jukebox and he just starts dancing, and the two of them are just standing there like pondering, like what the fuck is going on. It's great.
Well, and I love Howard walking up the step, and then he gets to the top, and then he takes just a step back and keeps walking. I was like, it's nice to see a little bit of levity from him, you know?
Right, exactly. I mean, like he's got this constant grimace on his face, but like here is just like, oh, you have emotions. Right. As Michelle goes to take a shower, she looks at the duck curtain and the wheels start to turn. This is where she gets the idea to construct a suit. Emmett goes to swap a pair of scissors from the kitchen, and Howard's watching Pretty in Pink, Megan's favorite movie, notably. And Emmett plays on like Howard's paranoia, right? Which is fucking super clever. He starts planting the seed that Michelle's probably contaminated because she touched the air filtration unit. And I love Howard just pausing the movie as we start to see this idea take hold, right? Like he's starting to consider this. And go Colin.
No, yeah. Well, I was just wondering, you know, again, this is one of those moments where he's just such a dick to Emmett. And I've never understood why let Emmett in? I don't get that. Like, I understand the reasons why later on for Michelle, but why do you let Emmett in? You know, you wouldn't let the other woman who's your neighbor in. Like, why let Emmett in? It's another mouth to feed. It's another person's opinions that obviously Howard doesn't want to hear. I wish there was a little bit more like motivation for that, because this is obviously not done out of like the kindness of his heart. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it was, maybe it's just a thing of, I respect you, you helped me build this, but he was like, I had to fight my way in. It's like, you were able to overpower Howard? Like, I'm sorry, that's a funny sentence to say. But I was just wondering about that, but upon like more watches of this, once you realize his intentions with Michelle, you get to understand why he's such a dick to Emmett the whole time. You know, it really kind of makes sense. But I was just wondering, like, why even, you know, he could have shot him in the head a long time ago and put him in the acid before Michelle even got there. So, like, why keep him around? But it kind of ends up being a thing of, like, you know, the movie needs Emmett there. The movie doesn't necessarily revolve around Emmett, but it makes it a lot harder to set this thing up when it's just two people the whole time.
You know what? It's funny because I didn't really get caught up on that much. I do think that he did it out of the kindness of his own heart. And like, I know that kind of goes against all of the evidence that were given about Howard and the way he treats Emmett, but Emmett did help Howard build this bunker, right?
Right.
So I'm just kind of thinking, like, if he helped him build this bunker, then maybe there is something there, like him kind of like, here's your kind of like thank you. And like, the reason he brings Emmett in on the bunker and not the woman upstairs is because the woman's probably going to bring in a whole bunch of contamination, right? Like, she's going to bring all that shit in. Whereas, like, I get the sense that Emmett, when he tried to enter the bunker, that was all like it was still going down. Like, you know, the world hadn't been contaminated yet, so he kind of let him in. But yeah, that's kind of like what I thought, like, because he did kind of help him build the bunker. That was enough for me. I'm not a fucking nitpicker like you, Colin, so.
I was just bored because it's like, yeah, I don't know. It just struck me as strange, but the movie really doesn't work without Emmett there.
Yeah, it needs him. Yeah. But yeah, so basically, Howard ends up disposing of the shower curtain, right? Much to the plan of the other two, which Michelle and Emmett retrieve. The music during these scenes is great, by the way, man. Like, Bear McCreary is the guy who does the score. And it's just like, it's mostly like violins, but it's just such a great mood setter. We get a little montage of Emmett and Michelle gathering items and creating the hazmat suit. Basically, the plan is to get the gun away from Howard, tie him up, and one of them goes for help. They play charades. Howard has to guess what Michelle is, but it's interesting, right? Like, it's a little heavy-handed here. He's unable to guess the answer, which is woman, but you know, you can kind of like see how he thinks, right? Like, he says, Michelle is a girl, a little princess. And Emmett's like, woman, right?
Yeah. This whole thing is, and it also, this whole where we're at now kind of reminds me of Iron Man, with just like like she's Tony Stark and he's Yasmin, I think is his name, and they're trying to build it without him finding out, but ultimately they find out anyways. I was like, this whole thing feels like Tony Stark in that cave. Jensen. God, I love Jensen.
Yeah, he was awesome, dude. But yeah, so I also love, like, Howard's one of those people who can't stand being wrong. Like, it's always the fault of someone else. Like, remember how he's like, because he can't get the answer woman, so he's like, next time try and be a little more specific. Like, you know?
Right.
But yeah, this is where Howard gets his card and lays down the "I'm always watching, I know what you're doing." So tense, by the way. Emmett gets pretty defensive, but Michelle correctly guesses Santa. And, as I just said, he can't stand being wrong. He says, yeah, well, I'm keeping that point.
Right, yeah. You're like, God damn, dude. Like, he's one of those people that, again, he kind of strikes me as Walter, from the Big Lebowski. Like,
super stubborn. Yeah.
Right, your toe went over the line. Like, dude, it's not a league game. Like, chill out, man. It's just fun.
Yeah, this person would be the worst to play Monopoly with. But yeah, later Howard gathers Michelle and Emmett, and this is where we get the barrel sequence. He doesn't tell them what's in it, just tells them to move it into the bathroom. And basically he reveals it's full of acid. And immediately I put down Breaking Bad style. Like, I know, Colin, you haven't seen Breaking Bad, right?
I have not.
Well, this isn't a spoiler for a fucking 10-year-old show. But yeah, the way they get rid of bodies is they basically fill up a barrel of like hydrochloric acid and just dump bodies in there so they just dissolve. But yeah, man, Goodman is just fucking scary good here, dude. Like, that constant frown. He asks Emmett whether he thinks he's an idiot, and he talks about getting rid of some waste, and he's found the materials. Emmett takes a fall, saying that he wanted the gun and that he wanted to make a weapon to get it from Howard, to get the gun away from Howard. And Howard says, thank you for your apology, and executes him point blank.
I did not. That was like a shock to me, because it's so quick, but then they actually have the realistic, like, deafeningly loud bang in such a small area. But I mean, of course, she's just mortified by it. But Howard just, it's nothing. Like, not only does the sound not fuck with him, the of what he's just done is not a big deal. But here's the thing: is I think if you flip it. And Michelle's the one who's like, I was wanting to take the gun because I'm the one who wants to be in charge, blah, blah, blah. I don't think he shoots her in the head.
No, absolutely not. I think he was looking for an excuse.
Right. No, and I believe that. I definitely do. But, and the thing is, Emmett's, like, excuses, his lie, almost sounds like he's going to get away with it for a second, because he kind of plays to what Howard is about. I wanted her to respect me the way she respects you. I wanted to be on your level. I wanted to ascend to the type of morality and the type of wisdom and respect that you get. And that's not, but that ends up not being enough. Even though he does accept his apology, he's like, still, though, you're a threat. You're a threat to a thing that I'm trying to forcibly build here. And that's one thing I like so much about, I love, he's like, listen to me, you heard him, he was going to make a weapon, he was going to hurt us, I did this to protect you.
That's my favorite part. Yeah, just the way he goes over and comforts her immediately.
Well, and this is the way it was always supposed to be. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's, oh man, ominous, man.
Like, does that mean that this is premeditated? Does that mean that you knew about this all along, and you always knew that you were going to murder Emmett in front of Michelle? Like, this was the way it was always supposed to be. Kind of lends to some premeditation. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's like, did you always know that Emmett was going to be like a threat? Like, what exactly does that mean? And I mean, I can do without that line.
Did you always know that you were supposed to bump Emmett off? At some point, you were supposed to kill him.
Right, yeah. Well, like, what exactly does... Like, and I'm not going to lie, in hindsight, like, I can do without the line, because it kind of ends up raising more questions like we're doing now than it actually answers. But at the same time, it is kind of like, yeah, like, if we don't have the knowledge of Brittany/Megan, of him trying to recreate this thing, then the line loses a lot of its validity to us as the viewer. But because we know about that situation now, it makes 100%... Like, it makes it so clear, So I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I could kind of do without it, but it's still cool that it's there.
I want answers, Abrams. I want answers.
Right. You and your mystery bullshit all the time.
Fuck you and your mystery box shit. Later that night, Howard brings Michelle some ice cream, and he's also shaved, right? And he says, we can do whatever we want now. And this is the scene where Goodman's breathing scares me, dude. It's like, hey, can someone get the microphone away from Goodman? That's all.
We've already got it back 40 feet. No, the interesting thing about Howard here is the haircut, the shave, he's not wearing just like a t-shirt and like flannel, he's got like a button up on.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's interesting that he's trying to have this clean cut, like father figure kind of look to him now, and he's so less menacing, unbelievably less menacing now.
Without the beard. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And he comes across as just like the guy next door. He looks like he would be fucking, Tim Allen's neighbor in Home Improvement. He just looks like the nicest, cleanest cut guy in the world now. And I mean, that's not an accident.
No, for sure. It's brilliant, actually. But yeah, he says that Megan always ate out of the bowl, and he tells Michelle that he wants them to be a happy family. And this all further motivates Michelle, right? Because we see her continuing to work on the suit. We have this scene where she hastily stuffs the gas mask into the vent, right? And the screw falls off just as Goodman's about to leave. God damn, dude. What an amazing piece of tension. He spots the suit from peeking out from under the mattress, and this is where all hell breaks loose, right? Get up, he says. And she makes a break for it, right? She locks Howard in her room, and it's just, dude, insane as she walks past Emmett's dissolving body.
Oh, that part was fucking rough, man. I was like, whew, like that is really hard to fucking take a look at, of just this head and feet kind of like poking up through oh man. And it sucks just because like we as viewers, like, I mean, I'm only speaking for myself, but really like Emmett, like in this, he's the
super
comedic
likable.
relief. Yeah. He's this fucking goofy guy that, you wouldn't mind going and having a beer with. Like, he's harmless. And her having to go past seeing like his fucking like body just dissolving in a giant toolbox. You're like, what the fuck?
See, for me, it's not the visual. For me, it's what I think the smell would be like.
Oh God, yeah, that would be fucking. I mean, it's such a small area as well. But the whole thing of of him getting out of the room, I was like, so how the fuck does Howard get out of that room so quickly? I know it's just such a small nitpick, but I like to think that John Goodman just like bum rushed the door with a shoulder and just broke it off the hinges.
He just ate his way through.
He just starts fucking hulking out in the room.
I imagine that the keys he has work both ways, maybe.
Right. I mean, he built. There's got to be some fail safe for him and him only.
Right. Exactly. Howard manages to escape and plays the "This is how you repay me" card. Dude, such an amazing fist pump moment as she kicks over the vat of acid. Fuck yeah, dude. Love it. And it's so, like, visually, it looks so awesome how this is shot, just how we see the acid, like, dissolving the carpet. Like, it kind of, like, creates that ring and causes a fire when the lamp shorts out. Just a really, really well-directed sequence, man. Trachtenberg did such a great job for his first film.
Oh, hell yeah. Like, I absolutely love that scene. Not only that, of her, of her like grabbing the top of the door and kind of like fucking Tarzaning her way out, like just total upper body strength, just getting her way through the room. I was like, oh, that's fucking cool.
Absolutely. And disfigured Goodman. It looks a little CGI.
I was expecting more of like Richard Jenkins and Let Me In, like the face just totally fucked up. And when it was only like, I mean, God, Phantom of the Opera looks better, looks worse than he does. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, that's kind of weird. I was hoping I was hoping he'd be a lot more fucked up,
Yeah, no, absolutely. It might have been a budgetary thing. I have no idea. But yeah, I was expecting him because like he falls into that acid. Like, what I mean? Yeah. He falls into that puddle. But yeah, she makes her escape through the ventilation. Howard's stabbing the knife from outside. You don't know what's out there. You can't run from them, he says. She puts on her DIY hazmat suit and heads up to the surface, right? And a bit of a pants-shitting moment when when she's unable to break the lock. But eventually she does. She gets outside and heads towards a pickup where she rips her suit and hastily tapes it back up, fearing contamination. Then she sees the birds and thinks, hold on, what if everything Howard said was bullshit? Was this all a weird ploy to get me to stay and be a replacement for his daughter? ?
Right. Well, and one thing I don't want to go past really quick is the throwback to the freezing of the lock. It's like he literally, like, in a way, Howard literally gave her the key to her own escape.
Right,
It's like, oh my God, that's so fucking good. But yeah, seeing the birds is just kind of like, what? Like, and it's something where if you see a bird outside, okay, whatever. In this circumstance, though, it ends up being like not not a totally innocuous thing. You're like, that has huge implications when you see it.
No, absolutely, dude. And this is kind of when the film starts to drop off a little bit. It's like, we're doing this. We're going in this direction. Okay. All right. We were doing such a damn good job. And like, look, this sequence, it's not bad. It's not terrible. It's just the genre mixing, just it feels very, very sudden. Even though we've been watching a movie titled Cloverfield the entire time. Right,
yeah. And I part of me really wants to like it, and part of me really does. It's not god awful. It's not the worst. It's not like From Dusk Till Dawn when they turned into fucking vampires. At least we had some hint. Howard did say that it's probably extraterrestrial or Russians, so it's like that can kind of go either way. And we've seen Cloverfield in the title. We have a pretty good idea of what's going on. But the genre swap is a little jarring. But the fact that when she jumps up and she sees the ship, she goes, "Oh, come on!"
Oh my
and
God! Yes, fantastic.
It kind of feels like it kind of feels like the audience going, "Dude, come on!"
Yeah.
And I for that I kind of like wave the hand of all is forgiven. Even though I mean I've harped about that a couple of times, but it's just it's not necessary. But does it derail the entire movie? No, it doesn't. But it's not really. It's kind of like having cherry pie and someone throwing a scoop of vanilla ice cream on the top of it. Like, it's too sweet. It was fine before, but I'll eat it.
See, I watched this with someone who, like, I remember watching it at the cinema with someone who absolutely thought that this derailed the entire movie. I don't know if I agree with them. I've never been on board with this ending. I'm really curious as to what the script would look like without. Before it was picked up by Bad Robot and Paramount, before it became a Cloverfield film, like that would have been interesting to see, like how they would have ended this. I just imagine, that she just basically locked Howard in there and it blew up and she escaped. I don't know. I'm just speculating here.
It's funny you say that because there's a YouTube edit of this where somebody cuts out all the alien shit and it's just her driving off. And I was like, oh wow, that's fucking incredible. But I'll send it to you so you can see it.
Nice. But yeah, she gets outside, heads towards the pickup where she rips her suit, and I fucking already read that, didn't I? But yeah, her reaction. Oh come on! But I love that the helicopter looks funny off in the distance, right? But like she doesn't really. It's not until like the explosion of the bunker that it lures the aerial craft over to her, and she's like, "Oh, come on." But yeah, she runs back to the barn. We hear something outside. It's a cool moment of the creature just peeking out from behind that car, really, really slowly, like really slowly. And there's no sound in this scene, but the car alarm, which is pretty good too. And I dig the design of the creature as well. It just basically looks like a tube with teeth. Like, I don't mind it.
Right, yeah. Like, I don't mind the design of them. I'm not gonna lie, my favorite design of any kind of like alien creatures in the last couple of years has actually been A Quiet Place. I really like the way they designed those in A Quiet Place, the way they move their legs and shit. I was like, I fucking really dig that. But these ones were just kind of like, that's just, I don't know. It didn't really wow me.
It's demo dogs.
Right. Well, the thing that I liked about it was that I was afraid this was going to be one of those like, just let your imagination fuck you for doing that. But they actually give you like a decent glimpse of what they look like. And it's like, okay, cool. At least you made a decision and you stuck with it. Even though it's not entirely original, at least you stuck to your guns.
No, absolutely. And like, look, they did what they can with the budget they had, right? I mean, like this, it doesn't look amazing. It looks fine, right?
Well, and it looks way more like The Mist. Like, it looks way more like shit from
Haven't seen it.
Have you ever? Oh, man, that's fucking great. No, it looks entirely like stuff from The Mist, which is fucking fantastic, by the way. It's a great movie. But the aliens in that are very similar looking. These ones specifically are very similar to these like tentacle-esque like kind of things that we see. But the shot of her like running and we see it out of focus in the background, I really dig
Pretty
that.
cool.
I was like, okay, that's cool. We get an idea. It's probably got 3 to 5 legs and it's got this like tentacle looking head. Like, cool. I'm cool with that.
It's fucking awesome. I remember this shot in the trailers very clearly. So as she's like looking up at this house and we see this bright light coming from behind the house, like they cut it like right there. Like we don't see the ship rising like, you know, past the house. All we see is like the house being illuminated from the back by the light. And then like, you know, that stirred so many questions for me because like, you know, then you see the title 10 Cloverfield Lane and it's just like, oh, what are we doing here? Like, you know what I mean? It's just such a great teaser to put in a trailer. But yeah, essentially the craft rises and disperses its gas, and she manages to get her gas mask just in time, right? Like this, obviously, I love. Okay, we didn't talk about this. I love that Howard was pretty much right, pretty much on the money. I kind of love that.
Yeah, well, yes and no. You know, that's what I like. Is it? Yes, there is this horrible gas that's coming down and turning people into the stuff, but it's not a permanent. You know, in a way. I mean, look at her. She has little to no, compared to Howard, little to no survival experience. And you tell me Howard didn't have a fucking gas mask in there somewhere? Like, come on, dude. Like, if Howard would have had one gas mask on and a hazmat suit, he would have been fine. You know, he would have totally been able to survive on the outside. But that's not Howard's. Like, Howard is right in the most strictest of terms. But then when you really kind of start getting into the go ahead.
With Howard, is it like that fear of the unknown? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, is he going to gamble taking a gas mask out there?
See, well, I think part of me is like, as somebody who wants to be in control of everything that's going on, part of me feels like he would want to know, like, well, how long can we survive out there? Blah, blah, blah. Is this actually something that we can manage? But he's not worried about that because what he wants is this Megan downstairs. That's what he wants. So it's like, well, fuck what's going on outside because I have bigger fish to fry down here. Now, I think if you remove like the Megan part of it, if there's no Michelle, there's no Megan, there's no Brittany, any of this shit, it's just him and Emmett. I think at some point he is going to try and just see what's going on outside. I think at some point, just because as somebody who likes to be prepared, and I know he's prepared to this extent, but when you start hearing the helicopters and shit like that, and he's like, this is bad. I think at some point he's got to go to the surface, you know?
Gotcha. Haven't fully made up my mind about that yet. Sorry, guys, you're not getting my answer on the podcast. Sorry.
I tell you what, I have made my mind up about the cocktail Starship Troopers alien thing. I don't need this. This seems like this seems like studio notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it does. You don't like the Molotov cocktail into the vagina? You don't like that thing?
Well, I mean, and even less than that, I don't like the 50-foot fall that she does head first in the truck. And she doesn't, dude, no damage. Are you kidding me? Like, I fell in a walk-in and dislocated my knee and was out. I couldn't walk for a week. Like, are you kidding me? Like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. Like, if Emmett had a sling on for 100% of this movie, you were walking out looking like Stephen Hawking out of this truck. Like, there's no fucking way.
Well, I mean, like, you've got the alien stuff that doesn't fit, but you also have this stuff that doesn't fit, right? Like this really weird kind of like action sequence where she's able to survive this thing. Like, it doesn't fit with what we've seen the previous hour and a half with.
Right. Like, and honestly, it wouldn't even bother me if she got scooped up through the Molotov cocktail and she got fucking killed. Like, okay, that makes sense. Like, I am okay with that. But, you know, have her see the ship and she puts her hazmat on suit and she hides and it doesn't find her. And they think because they sprayed the gas, it must have killed whatever's down there and they move on. She doesn't need to have the whole like last action hero, you know, throwing the bomb to like, you know, get away from her, you bitch. Like, we don't need that kind of like moment. All I need is like, this movie has not been a movie of action and fighting and taking it to the enemy. This has been a movie about survival.
Right.
And I think that survival is hiding and getting away from these things for now, because this is the battle and you survive this battle to go on to the war. And we don't really need to see her like taking down a ship single-handedly with a Molotov cocktail. Like, if it's that easy, of course everybody's fucking winning right now. Of course. This war should have been over like 2 days ago.
Right, no, exactly. And like, you know, just kind of like shifting gears a little bit, like this is, in Cloverfield, we never saw any ships. We never saw any demo dogs or whatever the fuck. Like, we only saw that massive creature plus like little parasite creatures that come off it. So this is all kind of like new to us. I'm still kind of like stuck on that. I'm banging that drum that none of this really fits. Like that, basically, that's all I'm saying.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And namesake only isn't anywhere near like a blood relative to Cloverfield. Like, yeah, you've got some aliens sprinkled on at the end, but I mean, that's really it.
Yeah. If we are doing this though, I really, 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 really like the wide shot of like the ship picking up the pickup truck. It's like a super far out wide. It looks awesome, dude.
It feels very Super 8. I really like that.
Absolutely. But yeah, she destroys the ship. She blacks out, whatever. We see the ship going down in spectacular fashion, and she drives off. She knocks over the letterbox, which reveals the address of Howard's home, 10 Cloverfield Lane, a bit more clearly than the letter before. And she picks up some messages on the radio about the military taking back the eastern seaboard. She receives a call for help for people who have any medical training or combat experience. Either move on to Baton Rouge or head to Houston, where people are in need of help. She brakes, reverses, and makes the decision, leaping into the fray. And man, I love this final shot with the music just swelling and that lightning crashing with the silhouette of the ship. If we are doing the alien thing, I definitely love that. I love the way it ends.
I dig it because it's cool. It's just very quick imagery. There is an alternate ending, and it's not very alternate. It's
really?
Still her. It's still her driving off. And again, I didn't see this on like a Blu-ray. I saw it on YouTube. So for all I know, this is just some schmuck who like edited it. But it said, 10 Cloverfield Lane alternate ending. But as she's driving off, the lightning strikes, and it's the huge like clover monster from Cloverfield, and it's walking towards that city, and you're like, oh shit, so some crazy shit's about to go down. I don't know.
I can't see that being real. I can't see that being real.
Right, and I'm wondering. I'm like, it could be, but I'm not gonna lie, it looked pretty fucking good.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that could be. It could be. But no, I either way, I dig it. I like she goes from she kind of has the, what do you call it, the Sarah Connor kind of.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I definitely dig this ending.
Me too. I mean, I didn't dig like when she gets out of the bunker, I didn't really dig that stuff, but I like the ambiguity of the ending. I would not have minded seeing a semi-sequel to this. Like, Paradox is obviously not a sequel to this. I wouldn't have minded seeing more of Michelle.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was actually looking up that alternate ending. Yeah, this was just done as a fun project by a fan for a fan. So there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's still pretty fucking cool looking. No, I wouldn't mind seeing more of that. I wouldn't mind seeing, because I don't know, man, this movie just works so much better as not being attached to the Cloverfield shit.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
The Cloverfield shit happened 8 years before this, and now like
you want to lead this into your final thoughts?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
Like I don't think this needs to be a part of the Cloverfield universe. I think this movie works fine if it's like, hey, like, just make it a separate sci-fi thing off on its own, or I think it could possibly work more as a Cloverfield film if it's like, hey, this takes place at the revolution is at the end of the movie, or the reveal is, oh my God, this is the day that that monster hits New York. Like, and there's more of them. There's one in Louisiana. There's one in Seattle. There's one in California. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing like multiple strikes in multiple areas around the world. But not just hey, it's 8 years later and all of a sudden we've got another monster attack for whatever reason. And we weren't totally prepared for this. I don't know. But the thing that's most disheartening about it is the fact that the movie did so well on its own without the introduction of aliens or monsters or anything. It was the paranoia, and the paranoia is what drives this movie. It makes it the driving force, and it's when the world ends. What kind of monsters do monsters make out of humans? When your back is up against the wall, do you? What kind of decisions you make are the ones that ultimately define like who you are. And that's what I really liked about the whole movie. And then at the end, that just really kind of threw a ratchet, and it doesn't really ruin the movie for me, because we need that with her character arc. That's the only reason that it even slightly makes sense. But even then you kind of have to ding some points, just being like, hey, if you needed her character arc to go in that way, it didn't have to be a Cloverfield thing. It could have been just World War III. It could have been Fallout. It could have been whatever. It doesn't have to be this. So ultimately, I really enjoy it. I think it's a fucking great script. I'm sure this is an amazing screenplay to read. I would really love to read this. It's lean, it's mean, it's tight. It's really, really good in letting its characters breathe, but at the same time, it doesn't have diarrhea of the mouth and just keep letting shit run. And we never have too much or too little of a character. And I think that's really hard to do, especially in a setting with one setting and three people. But they do a great job. It's got action, it's got suspense, it's got, no romance, which is great for a movie like this. And, the bits of humor that are in it are sprinkled through pretty well. I would say I'm going to give this like an 8.5 out of 10. And it would be probably a 10 out of 10 if it were not for the alien shit.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page here, right? I mean, like, I'm going to lead with my score as well. I think I'd definitely give it an 8.5. I usually try and go for like solid numbers, like 8 or 9s. I never usually try and go for the halves, but I can't. I think 9's a little too high, and I think 8's a little too low. Yeah, but yeah, it's the attachment to the Cloverfield franchise as a whole that kind of weakens the movie a little bit. But at the same time, the attachment to the Cloverfield franchise also adds a bit because, right, like what our preconceived notions of the previous Cloverfield movie going into this movie, we kind of have an inkling as to we're probably going to get some alien shit, right? Like, I mean, if you watch the trailer, not having seen this movie and already kind of having seen the previous Cloverfield movie, you're like, all right, where's the alien shit? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of, if the movie has the word Cloverfield in it, then you're automatically assuming that there's going to be some alien stuff in here. And, you're kind of like thinking about that. If you're watching this for the first time, you're kind of thinking about that when Howard is giving his story to Michelle, right? Like, he's like, there's contamination up there. And then, like, in the back of your mind, you could be thinking, oh, there's aliens up there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it can go... The connection to the larger Cloverfield franchise can work in its favor, but in the way that it's revealed at the end, it doesn't... It's too jarring, and it's too sudden, and it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't go with, as a whole, as, like, what the film that we've seen previously. Like, and it doesn't fit. Like, none of it fits. But from that first hour to the last half hour and like leaving out that last 15 minutes, this is an amazing pressure cooker of a film, dude. Like, this is such a fantastic acting film, like for, John Goodman, John Gallagher Jr. and what's her name? Fucking Mary Elizabeth Winstead. All three of them, dude, just turn in such great performances. It's a great directorial debut because, like, it's also this like crazy like mystery thriller. You're trying to get you're trying to get to some answers, right? There's these like big questions that this movie asks at the start of the film. Like, literally it sets it up in the first 8 minutes, and pretty much every question is answered in some way. Some more clearly than others, but they are pretty much answered. John Goodman, this is one of his greatest performances I've ever seen, man. Like, this guy, he's just such an amazing screen presence. And like, I really wish, he would play a villain more often. It's just it looks like he's having the greatest time of his life. Mary Elizabeth Winstead can just carry this film, man. Like, she's great. Her character is super well written, people are always like putting out, one of the greatest, action female heroines of all time. I wouldn't put her up there with like, Ripley or anything like that, but she should be in the conversation. Like, she's super like resourceful. She's super, she's pretty fucking smart. And she thinks for herself, dude. Like, she's such a fantastically well-written character. John Gallagher Jr.'s character, Emmett, is also fantastic, dude. He's a bit more of a comedic relief. But he's also, when he's genuine, when he's telling that story to her, you feel it. you definitely feel it. And he sells it really, really well. All in all, man, this was, when I first watched this in the cinema in 2016, I was super surprised because this was not the type of movie I was expecting. Having previously watched Cloverfield, I was like, okay, we're going to be in for like a monster movie. I wasn't expecting like this intimate drama mystery film. Like, I wasn't expecting that at all. Like, even though the trailer kind of gives off, by the way, the trailer doesn't reveal shit. Like, the trailer reveals like this bunker, these three guys are down there. and there's some shit happening on the surface. That's pretty much it. Literally, that is it. If you watch the trailer now, Colin, that's all you'll get from it. You won't get the idea that John Goodman is this kind of like semi-villain. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you won't get that idea from it at all. So it's a fantastic trailer, and like my expectations going into this at first, like, were like completely blown away. But yeah, man, really, really glad that we covered this movie. This was a great conversation, by the way. This whole episode, I'm really, really fascinated with how this turned out. But yeah, if you haven't seen it already, check this movie out. I don't know why you're listening to us here at the end if you haven't seen this movie. I do think it is the best film of the three. Paradox is sorry, Colin, but Paradox is kind of weak. You're not really not missing much. And Cloverfield itself, I saw it so long ago, I need to watch it again. But I do remember being quite strong, and it was quite short as well. I think it was only like an hour and a half, maybe less than that. But yeah, this was a great film. Check it out. Yeah, Colin, you want to close this out?
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thanks for staying late. Thanks for listening all the way through to the end of the episode. If you guys want to find some more stuff, we have actually a plethora of episodes more to check out. We've got plenty of feature presentations and upcoming attractions and a few little special features here and there. But if you want to find us on social media and just be a part outside the show, we're on Twitter at MDF Pod. We're on Facebook at Midnight Double Feature. There's also the group attached to that called the After Party, which everyone has been posting Witcher memes, and I don't understand them yet because I haven't started watching Witcher.
Nice.
We're also on Instagram you can find us just at Midnight Double Feature. We're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify. There's 1,000 different ways that you can find the podcast. And if for some odd reason you can't find it on any of your platforms, shoot us an email at midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. And stop by, rate and review us on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing. We don't have anything set up that would financially help the show or any kind of Patreon or anything like that. Maybe someday, but in the cards right now, if you want to help and be a big asset to us, just stop by and review us. Fuck iTunes, Facebook. There's 1,000 different ways to review us. Always, let us know how we're doing. Leave us a little feedback. If there's something constructive you got to say, love constructive criticism. Absolutely love it. The little bit of constructive criticism we've gotten, we've always tried to, if it's worth it, trying to apply it to that, if it's something that's legitimate. But yeah, that's about, I think, all the different ways that you can find us on social media. Without anything else, Zoe, you got anything else you want to say before we jump off here?
No, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out and listening to us ramble on about aliens.
Hell yeah. We got 2 more movies in this bitch to cover, so someday we'll get around to them. But for now, we will catch you guys later. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.